Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on a Monday night. Thanks for hanging out here with us on the Prime Time Show. Lovely to have you in. DeAndre Hopkins in Nashville earlier today. Flew out just a little while ago this afternoon after a successful visit, according to all reports, with Mike Vrabel, Rand Carthon, some Tennessee Titans players, and staff members. So we're going to talk about DeAndre Hopkins' successful visit, according to reports, here in just a little bit. We're also going to get into where this wide receiver room would rank should DeAndre Hopkins officially join the Tennessee Titans. We will, Bert is still in Las Vegas. Robert has been in Las Vegas. I haven't heard from him in quite some time, so I'm not sure if he's still well and able-bodied and competent. And, well, he wasn't competent before these things. So perhaps he will be even less so afterwards. But either way, I have no idea when Robert Walsh is getting back from Las Vegas. So we're appreciative of Jake, who's been helping us out behind the scenes. In the meantime, no Bert for in case you missed it, but I do have a good story to get into with you guys. Before we do any of these things, though, need you to share the broadcast around wherever you're hanging out with us. If that's Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch, please retweet the show in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen if Twitter is where you choose to consume us. If you are on Facebook Live, you can share now to public. That is in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. If you're on YouTube or Twitch, please subscribe to the channel, throw a like on the video, and we would be incredibly grateful for you doing all of those things so that more of your Titans fan friends can come hang out with us Sunday to Thursday night on the Primetime program. And as more of you guys pull up in here, we can go ahead and get this thing off the ground. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time from the Superbook Sports Studios. I'm your host, Buck Rising, and I am proud, as always, to be presented to you by the wonderful folks at True Math Fitness in the Gulch. True Math Fitness is where I will be at 8 a.m. tomorrow. If you like personal training, if you like the boot camp style group classes, or if you just want to work out in their incredible open gym, True Math Fitness is where you go. Your first workout is free at truemathfitness.com. Of course, the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage, GaryAshton.com is where you go for your dream address without the stress. Get the intel edge you need to succeed with the official real estate agent of the Nashville Predators. That's Gary Ashton and the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. GaryAshton.com is the website where you go. Promo code ATOZ, that's A2Z in the Superbook Sports app. Download the Superbook app today, and they will match your first bet up to $250. Superbook.com for terms and conditions and the best odds, boosts, and promo bets out there. So, DeAndre Hopkins in Nashville. No longer. He had got in last night, attended the final night of CMA Fest, according to his social media accounts, went to the facility today, spent time, according to multiple reports, including our dear friend Diana Rossini of ESPN. Diana saying that he spent time with teammates and coaches today. Titans players and coaches today. I shouldn't say teammates just yet, but spent time with the Titans personnel, with the Titans coaching staff, and certainly with their front office at this point, as he decided whether or not this was something that he would continue to consider and pursue. Now, according to multiple reports, he is still scheduled to make a visit to New England, though the logistics of that is something that they're working through right now. But with the circumstance, Eric Alonso says Buck knows something, saying teammates. No, not just yet. I think this is going to be a slow burn at this point for DeAndre Hopkins and whichever team he decides that he wants to play football for in 2023. But I want to talk about the percentage chance of this player landing with the Tennessee Titans. And with news of a successful visit today, what percentage chance do you give DeAndre Hopkins of landing in Tennessee? It's your Two Rivers Ford take. As always, it is presented by the beautiful folks at Two Rivers Ford, who deliver quality American-made Ford vehicles and award-winning customer service. Nobody has a better car buying experience than Two Rivers Ford. They have been in business for 40 years in the Middle Tennessee area, and they cannot wait to spend the next 40 with you. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet, where you go for that quality American-made Ford vehicles. 2023 model year Fords available right now at the dealership for you to test drive and take home. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com. So what percentage chance do you give the Titans of landing DeAndre Hopkins at this point? Kenneth Davidson on Facebook Live says 30 for Drew Meyerhoff. He's giving them just north of 50-50, 51% for him. Mo Francois, what a great name. I hope it's real. Says, honestly, think he'll sign with the Titans, 90%. I see a Super Bowl contender, and I think he saw it too. Okay, Mo, very optimistic about the Titans. I don't know that the Titans are a Super Bowl contender. I know. Here's what I think about like the idea of Super Bowl contender. Okay, you put together a team that you think is capable of making the playoffs, and then basically, what coaches will tell you in an honest moment, though they'll never say this in a press conference, is basically you're trying to get to the playoffs to just give yourself a chance, and at that point, you're trying to be as prepared as humanly possible, but there's such a degree of luck and injury luck in particular that is responsible for playoff success or lack thereof, that you just got to construct as good a roster as humanly possible to get yourself there and give yourself an opportunity to succeed. So I don't necessarily look at teams as Super Bowl contenders. I look at it as, all right, could I envision this team in some form or fashion, injuries notwithstanding, in the Final Four, which would then give them the opportunity, by nature, make them contenders, right? If you're playing in a conference championship game, you should be considered a contender. But basically, any division winner should be considered a contender just by nature of making the playoffs. So I would say of the Titans, I mean, yeah, it'll take DeAndre Hopkins for me to consider them a playoff contender. And then should they get into the playoffs, then anything theoretically is possible at that point. But I would say that given that there are still free agent visits that are scheduled, or at least one with the New England Patriots, the expectation is there will be more free agent visits on the horizon at this point, according to multiple reports. At this point, I think that when you see the DeAndre Hopkins reporting and you see him posting about Nashville on his Instagram story, and he's at CMA Fest last night, and he's hanging out at Tim McGraw. He's having a great time. All these things get you super excited, super juiced for the idea of DeAndre Hopkins in Nashville, when in reality, it's just going to take a bit more and a bit longer than you might otherwise want it to. Now, of course, they're in a situation where it would be beneficial for DeAndre Hopkins to join this roster post-haste, right? But for him, there's no pressure on him to do it. I don't blame him at all for testing his market, and that is something that he'll do. You'll hear the details of that here in just a second. Right after I remind you that the Primetime Show is presented by the wonderful people at the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. GaryAshton.com. They are the official real estate agent of the Primetime Show. I'm a very happy homeowner, courtesy of the Ashton team. 4 years in my home, just a little less than 4 years. It'll be 4 years this month, though, in my dream address without the stress, courtesy of that Intel Edge I got at GaryAshton.com. They have the best properties, the best information for the best value. The Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage, the official real estate agent of the Nashville Predators, is GaryAshton.com. So you have a situation for the Tennessee Titans where it looks promising. Looks like the value is going to be a little better than you otherwise anticipated. I think that at this stage, if DeAndre Hopkins gets an Odell Beckham Jr. type deal in terms of guarantees and average annual value, now maybe it's a 2-year deal as opposed to a 1-year deal like Odell signed in Baltimore. But if he gets close to that value, it would be a surprise. I was listening to the morning show on the radio station that I work for, Ramon, Kayla, and Will. You can hear them from 6 to 10 before my radio show starts at 10 a.m. They had the guy who started Spot Track, right? Mike Giannetti, for those of you who armchair GMs and check out a variety of different options for your teams in terms of salary cap and spending and things like that. Mike Giannetti said there's never been, in the last 6 NFL offseasons, never been a player contract that has exceeded $9 million handed out between the month months of June 1st and September 1st. Now, DeAndre Hopkins, he said, is a unicorn in this circumstance. Typically, free agents of that caliber are not available at this time of year. But I do think that it is an interesting precedent to look at, because even if it does exceed $9 million on an average annual basis, Mike said today that he would project a 2-year, $20 million deal with $10 million in guarantees, that the guaranteed money handed out by a team has never exceeded $9 million in that window in the last 6 off seasons. So it's a pretty interesting stat, right? DeAndre Hopkins, one would think that he should be able to easily eclipse the $10 million mark, but apparently at this time of year, it's not typical for teams to spend at that rate. Again, it's not typical for a free agent to be available, a free agent like DeAndre Hopkins to be available at this time of year in particular. But what he will see with the Patriots is if he can try and gin up a little bit of a bidding situation, though the Patriots and the Titans are probably not two teams who are going to be able to get into quite a spending war, quote unquote. This was Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network detailing what Hopkins' New England visit will look like here in the coming days.
That's what this is going to be like, by the way. A revenge tour for DeAndre Hopkins, just aimed at making sure people know he is still one of the best receivers in football. So he's got a big week ahead. We've already known that he is set to visit the Tennessee Titans. That is going to happen early next week. Sources now say that he's set to visit the New England Patriots. That is also going to be next week, and this one actually makes a ton of sense for both sides. If you're DeAndre Hopkins, obviously you have a ton of respect for Bill Belichick. They have conversed over the years on the field and otherwise. Is this a place where he can resurrect his career and show everyone that he's not just old and can't get open? And then for the Patriots, it just never quite felt to me like they were totally done in free agency. Still had a need at receiver. Seemed to be willing to spend on some level. They rarely do free agent visits. They are doing one this time. That should show you how serious, at least on its face, the Patriots are about DeAndre Hopkins.
So it's a pretty unique scenario that we've seen painted for us or seen presented to us, everybody who's keeping tabs on this situation. So I think, we talked about the better landing spot last night, I believe, between New England and Tennessee. No, I'm sorry. We're going to do that tomorrow, depending on how that free agent visit goes between New England and Tennessee. But I do think that the Titans do, in principle, present a better situation for DeAndre. Again, the money matters more than anything. Zachary Smith says, Buck, for real, if you were in his situation, you would pick the Pats over the Titans. Better situation and better atmosphere. Well, no, I don't know that. Now, you guys know me to be pretty unbiased in this situation, and I'm, not slow to tell you when I think the Titans are not certainly the best circumstance in the NFL, if in terms of competitiveness or finances. But what's the selling point for New England? I don't know what his relationship is with Bill O'Brien at this point. I know it didn't end on good terms. I don't know that the better situation in New England necessarily. Bill Belichick, I asked Lucas this question. Lucas, the executive producer of my radio show, asked Lucas this question the other day. Is Bill Belichick still thought of as the best coach in the NFL right now? Not all time, which he is, I think. But in 2023, is Bill Belichick the best coach in the NFL? The answer is no. He's coming off one of the dumbest decisions that he's ever made, where he let Joe Judge and Matt Patricia co-manage offensive coordinator in ways that should have never happened. And Mac Jones, thoroughly frustrated. They've hindered their young quarterback's development. Now heading into year 3, you still don't know what you have in him, whether that is something that is going to work for them or not. Either way, it's been mismanaged. Now, Bill Belichick is as smart as anybody, certainly, and Bill Belichick is not somebody that I would doubt in any circumstance. But the selling point, New England has never been regarded for atmosphere, better situation competitively. I think the Patriots defense always is always way better than it has any business being, because it's not like they're ever the most talented group, but they always find ways to put good defenses together. I think that the arguments is very much against New England from a variety of different angles, but I don't know how. One, I don't know why you would assume that I would pick that situation. Two, I don't know why you think it to be the better situation nor the better atmosphere, because by all accounts, it is none of those things at this stage. Maybe one time, maybe with Tom Brady, maybe at the height of their runs, or even at the tail end when it was a little different. But certainly it has not felt like that in New England for quite some time. Let's move on and let's talk about if the Titans were in theory. Oh, by the way, my percentage chance, I give them a 25% chance. I think that's really, really high. Right now, between the four teams that would be competing for them, I think 25% chance is fair. I think that's probably. I may give them a 30% chance just to even things out a little bit, to give the Titans. I would give the Titans the highest percentage chance of landing this player right now, based on all the things we know about DeAndre Hopkins and the idea that the Bills or the Chiefs haven't offered him a contract, or that he hasn't accepted a contract from them at this point. I would say 25 to 30%, I think, is a fair number at this point. Vandy615 says, weak take at 25. Well, I think that's nonsense. I don't know why you think that's weak. I think that's a pretty strong take. I think that gives them the better percentage chance than anybody else. If I were to give them 30%, for example, I think that is far more than they deserve, given their finances, given the state of the roster. I think they have a couple of selling points, but why would you argue for any more than 25% at this stage? What is there to indicate that there should be any reason that they should be given a greater than 25% chance? If you can present an argument that is legitimate, then I might be willing to hear you. But if you're just looking for the hottest take or the spiciest take or the strongest take, well, then, I think you're wasting your time, and you could probably come up with something better. Then if you could come up with something better, I'm certain that we could pick apart that argument very, very quickly, given the circumstance among these teams. So let's William Young says, come on, Buck, give them a 31% chance. No, I've already gone up by 5%, probably 5% more than they deserve. But at this point, I think that's going to be fascinating to watch. Who cares? Triple X, we'll just call it. Who cares on YouTube says, you really want a Julio 2.0? Well, they're not the same. They're not the same. Julio was clearly in physical decline. DeAndre Hopkins is in physical decline, but not to that extent. DeAndre Hopkins, while he has had hamstring issues in the past, that's not something that hindered him at all last year. He missed games. He only appeared in 9 games, but was still more productive than any wide receiver he had on the roster. Still not a situation where it looked like his game had suffered coming off the PED suspension. So yes, not ideal, and we'll see how long. At some point there's going to be a fall off, and I understand why you're skeptical at this point. But to say that it's a Julio 2.0 completely ignores the situation that these two players are in. Julio was a trade. DeAndre Hopkins is a free agent. Julio cost you $17 million. It doesn't sound like DeAndre Hopkins is going to cost you anywhere close to that, really, based on the market that's available right now. So to present it as Julio 2.0 is doing a disservice to other Titans fans. It's doing a disservice to yourself, because 1, it's not factually accurate. 2, it's not financially accurate. And 3, if you're that scared of taking swings on talented players, then what is even the purpose of talent acquisition for an NFL team? If you're not happy with that, that's about as good an option as can be presented to you. If you're not satisfied with that, then I don't know what you're going to be satisfied with. Perhaps you're not going to be satisfied in any way, shape, or form. And then if that is the case, you're beyond my help and I can't do anything for you. But yeah, it's not the same as Julio. So let's talk about where they might rank. Should you look at the Titans wide receiver group right now and compare it to the other AFC South teams? We did this today on the radio show. And turns out the rest of the AFC South is not nearly as good or not nearly better in the ways that you might think it is, given how little the Titans have at the wide receiver position. So we'll talk about where the Titans might rank should, in this hypothetical, they add DeAndre Hopkins to this group. Where would the Titans wide receiver room rank in the division of the 4 teams? Jags, Colts, Texans, and Titans in no particular order. Where would you rank the Titans wide receiver room if DeAndre Hopkins joined that group? We'll talk about it together right after I remind you that the Primetime Show is made possible by Superbook Sports. Go to superbook.com for terms and conditions on the best odds boost and promo bets out there. Plug in the promo code ATOZ, A2Z, and you will get your first bet matched up to $250. Whether you're betting on the NBA Finals, Miami looking to stay alive tonight, right now before the half, trying to hang on to a slim margin in their favor on the road in Denver. No small feat. Whether you're betting the NBA Finals, the NHL, or anything in between, Superbook.com is your place to go. Gambling problem, call the Tennessee Red Line, 1-800-889-9789. So, where would you rank the Titans wide receiver room should they add DeAndre Hopkins? Matt Drew says first because wide receiver is all we're lacking, I feel. No, I don't think that's true. I think there's holes all over this roster still. It's just that they had a ton of holes to begin with, and there's only so much work that they could do this offseason. It would make a big difference. I'm not disputing that at all. But quantifiably, like Chigakonkwo is exciting to think about. I don't know what Chig is as a proven commodity, just the same as I've seen Chig play more than Treylon Burks or Kyle Phillips, for example, but there's nothing there to solidify me in Chigakonkwo being any kind of a great player. Jeff Simmons, obviously a great player. Harold Landry is, I'm going to assume that Harold's going to be operating somewhere between 75 and 80% all season. Maybe that's certainly better than not having Harold Landry on the field. And maybe since it's a full year removed, he'll be able to last out there longer and be able to manage himself in a competent way. I don't feel good about the corners by any stretch of the imagination. Don't feel good about the safety situation with Kevin Byard. Beyond Kevin Byard, Amani Hooker missed a ton of time last year with injury, and there's no depth behind them. Really don't feel great about the edge rusher depth at this point. I think that Arden Key has a lot to prove. He'll be a first-time starter here 4 years into his career. Offensive line is just a bunch of different names. I don't know that they're better. It would be difficult to imagine a world that they're not better, but it was also difficult to imagine another season where the Titans were as injured in 2022 as they were in 2021. And they weren't quite, but they got damn near. So wide receiver, all you're lacking? No, I think that's a very, very unrealistically optimistic view of the roster. And while I do think that they've done as much as they can, I'm not saying that they haven't done as much as they can to address the needs. Eric Castillo says it accurately. I don't feel good about speaking for me here, Buck doesn't feel good about the team in general. I don't blame him. Yeah, of course not. Why would I? There's nothing there to make me feel super confident other than, I know Mike Vrabel to be a good coach. I don't know what Rand Carthon's moves are going to end up, what fruit they'll end up bearing, if any, but they've certainly done a lot to try and change this thing. Like I said, they may go 7-10 again and it feel different. Maybe it's not with, 7 straight losses, which was a disaster, but like if you told me that the Titans went 7-10 again in 2023 after going 7-10 in 2022, but it felt a lot better because it was different, right? You found you were learning things about your football team. Maybe you weren't as competitive as you wanted to be, but you saw the foundation of something that you can build upon for 2024 when you have $140 million in cap space. So, my expectations for them are really, really low. And I'm sure they're thrilled with that because low expectations are always the favorite of football players and coaches. Let's move on and let's read a couple of comments before we move on. Christopher Combs says of Hopkins, if he gets $10 million a year, he loses $500,000 in-state tax alone. Just got here, Buck. What's been said? Well, quite a bit. So if you want to rewind it, feel free to do so. There's 23 minutes of show that you've missed. Van Boys TV says, Buck, realistically, would D-Hop come to a run-first team? Seriously, sure. Yeah. What does he give a shit if it's a run-first team as long as they're paying him the most money? Of course he would. How many times I got to tell you? The most important thing to this dude, according to multiple league sources, is the money. If you pay him more, he will go and play for your football team. He is currently gauging his options to see who will pay him the most at this point, and if it's a situation that he finds to be tenable. I don't know how much less beneficial of a situation he's willing to eat, depending on how much more money's at stake. And it doesn't sound like he's going to have quite the market that he would have had in a normal free. He assuredly will not have a market like he would have had it been a normal free agency, right? Not a late release the way that he was. But of course, realistically, he would come to a run-first team because if the run-first team pays him the most, then yeah, that's how it's going to go. let's move on and do, in case you missed it, typically that involves Bert. Bert is still in Las Vegas. I assume that we're going to get some content out of that at some point in the future, should he reemerge. But in the meantime, I'm going to get into a story that I think you guys need to be made aware of, because we all need to actively fight against the powers that be, the powers that are behind Baby Gronk. We'll do that here in just a second. The question that I'm going to ask you is this: on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, what do you make of the Baby Gronk situation at this point? We'll talk about it together on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch right after I remind you that Primetime is made possible by True Math Fitness in the Gulch. The best workout in Middle Tennessee is made possible by True Math Fitness in the Gulch. I'll be there 8 a.m. tomorrow for my personal training session. If you want to go to the group classes, they're exceptional too. I love the group classes. I like a more individualized approach now at this point in my life. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I go to personal training at TrueMath. You can do that as well, and it will work with your schedule. You can sign up for their great group classes or just get a membership and go to their awesome open gym. The best coaches and the best possible workout in Middle Tennessee. A new way to work out for the best version of you. True Math Fitness in the Gulch, truemathfitness.com for your first workout free as a Middle Tennessee resident. What do you make of the Baby Gronk situation on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch? Monsoon Monahan says, educate me, chat. That dude, Barack Kraft says, that dude needs to be blacklisted everywhere. So I'll give you a brief synopsis of the Baby Gronk situation. Baby Gronk is a social media phenomenon. He is a football player who is, I believe, 10 years old, who is being offered up, going to a lot of colleges, taking pictures with a lot of college football coaches, going viral because people like Livy Dunn, for those of you who are on Snapchat, the LSU gymnast, did a viral YouTube video with Baby Gronk, and it took off. And so now his father is doing an interview with Ari Wasserman of The Athletic. And so Baby Gronk, and more specifically his father, have been super polarizing. The dad is selling this kid to places like Barstool, right? They slid into Taylor Lewan and Will Compton's DMs to try and get Baby Gronk on Bussin' with the Boys. They're trying to get Baby Gronk on a variety of different outlets. They're trying to make money off his social media fame of a 10-year-old who is being, quote unquote, programmed like a machine, eating on a regiment. For those of you who remember Little Hercules, it's very, very much Little Hercules vibes. So it's a really disgusting situation. I think in particular, I think it's the kind of sports version of a stage mom that can be super stage parent, that can be super poisonous and not beneficial to the child. In fact, using the child or living vicariously through the child. Maybe Baby Gronk likes this, maybe he doesn't. But I thought that Will Compton did a great job in addressing the Baby Gronk situation because, this dude, the dad, feels super slimy, and using your kid for profit, even if it has no real implication or intention of trying to get him a professional sports career, I think this was the appropriate response.
You just had to DM the account again, didn't you, brother? We have to step in the pantry and have a much-needed conversation. This is for Baby Gronk's father. You are not coming on Bussin' with the Boys. I personally disagree with what you're doing. What I think is that you're exploiting your son for social clout, status, fame, money, and to fill a void that you couldn't fill on your own. I think this is all about you. You're hiding behind all this nonsense that it's not about you, and you're building him a bank account for a safety net. He's going to be a millionaire by the time he's a senior in high school. Yank fucking yank. Talking about his he's been programmed since he was 6 years old. He works out 6 days a week and is on a regimen and eats salmon and brown rice. And talking about this has been premeditated since before he was born. That is the definition. That proves that it was all about you. This is all about you. You're nothing but like a con artist running a pyramid scheme on the internet. If you're thinking about this since before he was born, he's 10. That means you're 36 years old. If you're thinking about this since before he was born, then that means you're like 24, 25. Your prefrontal cortex isn't even fully developed then. It still seems like it's not fully developed. You're out here selling wolf tickets for a quick buck just in case he gets hurt or something. Oh, and then you're like, oh, like I did, like you did, claiming that your career is like Boobie Miles. What? Midland took Boobie's career. You just didn't make it. Stuff like you would have made it if it wasn't for tearing your ACL type shit. This has got to stop. This is insane. And you want us to join it. We're not joining the circus. Wolves don't perform in the circus. Unless it's for the right incentive, of course. But this has got to stop. This is insane. This is fucking insane. And I'm telling you, this is not going to end well. You're setting a massive expectation, a massive target on his back one day. And when he slips and falls and he lands on his face, this shit is not going to end well. And do you actually think he's going to grow up and want to do the same thing with his son that you're doing with him? Taking him around and fucking parading him around, looking ridiculous in all the shit that you're having him do. This shit has got to stop. Somebody had to say it because I can't fucking take it anymore. But this is not going to end well.
He's right. I don't give Will a lot of credit for a lot of things, but he's right. I don't think he's ever been more right. I think the exploitation of baby Gronk is something that has to be publicly shamed to the extent that it is discouraged, and hopefully, some guiding force in baby Gronk's father's life finally speaks reason to him, and they stop doing things that are just publicly exploiting the child for the sake of the father's social media clout. All right, it's going to do it for us tonight on the Primetime Show. Appreciate you guys spending your time with us. Of course, if there's more DeAndre Hopkins updates, we'll talk about him tomorrow on the radio show from 10 to 1 on 104.5 The Zone. Speaking of the reporting around DeAndre Hopkins, I am going to text Diana Rossini and see if she'll stop by the radio show this week. She was doing some good reporting on that, and I'm certain we could use her insights and analysis. So if I don't talk to you on the radio show tomorrow, we will do another Primetime Show tomorrow night. Have a great rest of your evening, and we'll talk to you then.
Are you surprised to hear that?
Certainly not. The first year we took it to the limit. And I was in Miami with my new beach house. Well, it was a couple minutes from the beach.
It's been 20 years since then. We haven't been too strong in the last few years.
Oh, we've been strong. We're just playing by the rules. You can't have a newcomer come in and steal the show.